Hello everyone, we have concluded week 5 of the Dave Campbell's Texas football featured game of the week, and technically week 1 for both of these two teams, as I was at a 5A matchup between the number 1 team in 5A Division 2 in the Ennis Lions and the number 9 ranked team in 5A Division 1, the Red Oak Hawks. This one ended 52-21. Ennis traveling on a road game and taking a huge victory to start off the season. And to start off the game, you could tell that it was a little bit of week 1 jitters. They're finally back on the field. Of course, everyone's so excited in these upper classifications to be back playing football. The first couple of drives, a little rough for both teams, and then Ennis decided to Ennis. And like I said, Dave Campbell's Texas football ranked them number 1 in the preseason rankings out of all of 5A Division 2. And they did nothing but make us look like we actually know what we're talking about. But in all seriousness, Ennis was an unbelievably impressive squad tonight that proved that they deserve to have that number 1 spot right now. Their senior quarterback, Colin Drake, he transferred in last season to play at Ennis, had over 2,800 yards passing last season. Actually the son of the athletic director now at Ennis, and he was absolutely phenomenal. The biggest credit goes out to a really big credit goes out to the Ennis offensive line. And it was funny because when I talked to Coach Harrell earlier this week, he told me that their offense was pretty set going into this offseason. The only thing that they had to do was fill in an offensive line. He said every other position, we kind of knew who was already going to be starting. And that offensive line absolutely looked very impressive, with probably the youngest part of their team, opening up holes, allowing Colin Drake to be back there with plenty of time to get multiple long passes off. And then also, you got to give a shout out to their senior running back, Devion Beasley. He had 3 different touchdowns, 2 of them in the first quarter, and he was very, very impressive. But again, a big credit of that goes into that Ennis offensive line. We know Ennis's defense is just phenomenal. We've known that for a long time. Coach Harrell telling me that some of his best years that he's had in his tenured career at Ennis have been where the offense gets the publicity, but realistically, it's their defense that is just unbelievably solid. He said their linebacking core is really solid, and then they have, as he said, just really, really good defensive backs. A couple of different interceptions that they picked off and almost took back to the house tonight. So Ennis, just an unbelievable showing all around. Red Oak, the biggest question coming in was who were they going to have at quarterback, because they have Josh Irvin, who is their senior quarterback, who started last year on varsity. But then they got the Duncanville transfer, and Chris Parsons. He, of course, played in the 6A D1 championship last year for Duncanville when Quindon Jackson got hurt in that semifinal game. And Irvin started off the game. He was named the starter. Coach telling me that he had earned the right to have that starting position, and it wasn't even 3 or 4 minutes into the second quarter and Parsons was already in. Kind of looked like it brought a little bit of life back to Red Oak there at the end of the first half. And then coming into the third quarter, Josh Irvin was again starting at that point. And he threw an interception. 1 drive later, Parsons was in for the rest of the game. And you can see that I think just the lack of the off-season full-on experience with Parsons coming in, that the Red Oak squad is going to be a talented squad. They've got some big individual playmakers, but the biggest factor of it is they need more time figuring out exactly who they're going to plan to run at quarterback, and then also hitting with receivers and making sure that the offensive line is ready to go up against a defensive line that looks much like Ennis's, which is just phenomenal. So a big win for Ennis tonight. Very, very high on Ennis going into the rest of this season. They will miss their game next week, but we'll be back in week 3 for them, which will be week 7 for us against Waxahachie. So we'll see. We'll be back on TFT on Monday to break all this down for you. Bye, guys.